looking at the book of Romans, and I'm going back here into chapter 12. The first 8 chapters primarily deal with the gospel message. Chapters 9 to 11 deals with the true Israel in comparison to ancient Israel. And chapter 12 begins to tell us how to live this life, how to put rubber to the road, so to speak. In chapter 12 we read that Paul writes, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. He goes on and says, for I say through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. For as we have many members in one body, but all the members do not have the same function, and so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. If prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Our ministry, let us use it in our ministering. He who teaches, in teaching. He who exhorts, in exhortation. He who gives with liberality, and he who leads with diligence, and he who shows mercy with cheerfulness. In each one of these things, the idea is how we operate our faith. As he says in the first one, he says, let us use them if prophecy. He says, for the grace that is given, according to the grace that is given to us, let us use them. And that is by faith. Faith isn't just a one-time thing in the past where we believed that Jesus died for us, where we believed that he was dead and buried in the tomb, where we believed that he resurrected that Sunday morning, where we believe that he sits at the right hand of the Father. Faith isn't just that, but faith is continually to hold that in the things we do to send the message out of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. Whether we prophesy, whether we're ministers, whatever we do it to the measure of your faith. What is the measure of your faith? Is it something that you're asking God to give you more of? Remember that verse I read back here in verse 3? For I say, through the grace given to me, to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. This measure is the same across the board. Faith starts off as that little seed, like a mustard seed, and grows as we exercise it. Exercise your faith, and in that faith as it grows, do the things that God has called you to do. Do your ministry. Remember, we're all ministers. We may not be pastors of churches and things of that nature, but we are all ministers of Jesus Christ with a message to share the gospel to the world. As Adventists, at the core of our message is that 3 angels' messages, the last message of hope that goes out into the world. Grow your faith that your faith may reveal itself in your ministry as we prepare to take the kingdom back. Let that be a blessing to you. And then